Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Auto Central show powered by South Africa's #1 marketplace, autotrader.co.za. And if you want to go and see over 75,000 vehicles, log on to autotrader.co.za and go and view the marketplace. Very cool and intuitive search functionality that we're very proud of.
My favorites, easily.
Exactly. And it's the easiest search functionality in South Africa today. You just put in the text box,
and then boom,
typing in your variant, make, model, whatever you like, and it will begin to build a list for you. The only search of its kind in South Africa. Well, it's got a bit of Elasticsearch. It's got so there's that concept is being used. It's not exactly all just Elasticsearch. A lot of other fancy.
Yeah, but it's a lot better than
Wandile stuff going on the back there.
Thank you for that nod.
I made a wand. A wand. A Wandile. There we go. So just a reminder that we can get the podcast where?
So you can get the podcast on cliffcentral.com every Monday at 9. But we're also streaming on various streaming services such as Spotify, iTunes Music, as well as you can view us on YouTube, which is kind of the new growing favorite.
So if you want to see us, go to YouTube at Autotrader SA, and then you can listen and watch if you'd like, or if you prefer just the voice podcast, go to any of the platforms. It's all there. But if you want to hear it first,
Monday.
9 a.m. Monday, every single Monday without fail. So what we're talking about today is the rise of the new Champ.
Yeah. So
and we're not talking about the Nissan Champ Bucky.
No, we're talking about the new body type Champ. I think a few weeks back we did the Bucky episode, and a few people were like, "What about SUVs?" Because obviously we know that SUVs are fastly becoming the most popular body type across the world, really, more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think in South Africa just alone, there's been a 50% growth in the last year.
It's been incredible.
It has. So let's unpack a little bit. Why has this body type become so popular? And just, give our opinion as to why we believe people are taking up purchasing them so much.
Yeah, I mean, many years ago, the sedan was the thing to drive, and sedans are losing favor with the consumer, and then we had double cabs and Buckies started to grow, and I've got a couple of reasons why I wouldn't drive a Bucky today, although they have their place and their purpose. I actually own an SUV. I've owned SUVs for. I did have a 650 BMW a few years back, but after
recent
that,
history, though. You've had an SUV in the last few.
Yeah, no, my last two cars have been SUVs.
Yeah.
And one before that was the BMW, and then I had a Fortuner before that, so it was SUV as well. So I went from the Fortuner to the BMW 650. Beautiful car, I loved it, loved driving it every single day, but I missed the SUV.
Why? What was your reason for buying an SUV? Because I personally don't own an SUV. I've never kind of found them as an attractive body type, but I just think that's just kind of my life right now. But for somebody who's actually driven them, what has been the biggest selling point for you?
Well, the different ones I've had have been for different reasons, but overarching, besides the versatility and the space inside the car, I think it primarily is the ride height. The ride height for me trumps everything.
Yeah,
number one.
Yeah,
and then I suppose being able to get out of a tight spot.
Tight spot in terms of like an emergency or literally maneuvering?
No, it's you can't get out of a tight spot because of maneuvering. It's a bigger car, so unless you drive over the other car.
Yeah, I know. So it's quite interesting because when I was doing research a little bit into this, when we found out that we're going to be doing this topic, the biggest thing that came up was the ride height. That was kind of the main selling point. That
I didn't know that. So I didn't know that that's the main selling point.
The exact same reason why you decided to go.
No, that was off the bat for everybody that's listening. I didn't know Wandile came across that as being the main reason.
Surprise.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. So for me, that's exactly that. It's ride height. Because we're in South Africa, and, vehicle criminal activity is high, I feel safer with the ride height. And I also feel I can drive over stuff.
Yeah. Ironically, like I said, I've never really liked SUVs, but in the last few sort of months, crossovers have
it's a kind of between a sedan and an SUV, right?
And it's like, for me personally, I totally understand it and I get it. But what's confusing to me is now that there's OEMs such as Ferrari and Lamborghini and Aston Martin, these supercar brands, which any sort of motorhead, cringed at the finding out that Lamborghini, for instance, would be releasing the Urus. But now they're making almost 50% of total Lamborghini sales. So it completely makes sense as to why people are going there. But I'm still on the fence if it's my favorites.
Well, I mean, I at one point I had the Jeep SRT8.
Yeah.
Which is a very, very aggressive car.
Yeah.
Loved every minute of driving that car. And the only negative about the SRT8 was... Petrol. Yes. Second negative.
Yeah.
The only negative was the very stiff ride for an SUV. That was the only negative about that car, and then obviously the fuel consumption. But I don't know if you know, SUVs started life in 1940, so kind of like more than 40 years after the car itself.
Yeah. Which is quite interesting. Do you know why they came about?
Well, it was the Second World War thing. America needed a small utility vehicle to go off-road and be rugged and easily repairable. Because you can imagine in the war times, roads were bombed, they needed to drive off-road, all that stuff. And they came up with nothing other than the Willys Jeep. People criticized the Jeep, but that was the birth of the SUV.
Yeah, I've actually seen the Willys Jeep a few times, growing up on Top Gear and kind of everywhere. It's kind of... I think it has a very special place in the evolution of motoring.
I still love Jeep.
Yeah.
I've got, like in my circle of friends there, we've got a lot of Toyota fans.
Yeah.
If you go to Pretoria, Toyota Fortuner.
That's just South Africa, right?
Well, yeah. And then if you drive a Land Rover, you get mocked for whether you're carrying oil on the roof or not. To top up.
I can believe that.
And then so I've owned all three.
Yeah.
If you drive a Jeep, well, then you're on the dark side of the planet from the Fortuner drivers.
100%. I think a lot of South Africans would be shocked, and I think there's two schools of thoughts there. But I can totally believe why the Jeep is so popular. I mean, it was the first.
So the Land Rover was then launched a couple of years later after the Willys Jeep, and obviously, they saw the Willys Jeep and decided that the UK needed a flagship car, so they created the Land Rover, and the Toyota Land Cruiser, really, I think
that changed the game.
It changed the game.
Yeah, definitely. Really, even today, right? It's still for any safari trackers and anybody who wants to go off-roading with a family or just purely on your own. It's still one of the most popular vehicles to do.
Well, it was a
exactly that.
Inbred version of the Jeep crossed kind of Land Rover, right?
Yeah,
it was a Land Cruiser.
I think it also almost doubled the power that the first two kind of brought to the table.
Apparently 84 horses, whereas the Willys Jeep was 60 horses.
Yeah.
I don't know why we still talk in terms of horses. We should be talking in terms of kilowatts.
Yeah, and in South Africa, I think we do speak about kilowatts quite a lot. But what's interesting is...
Well, because we're going to get to electric, which is also kilowatts.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, right? It's the natural progression.
Exactly.
But Toyota came with reliability. I think that was the big game changer with the Land Cruiser specifically. Today, they're kind of known as the reliability kings. I've never owned a Toyota, but... Never ever. But I've only owned one car, to be fair.
And crashed it. And we had to go there.
I've been trying to forget. So thank you.
Did you fix it yet?
No, I haven't. But I did find the part that I needed. So
good.
I'm just waiting for the holidays to finally do that.
So why are these things so popular? Why are SUVs so popular? I can tell you one reason for an SUV personally. One reason for an SUV over a double cab Bucky.
Yeah.
No leaf springs.
Okay.
Leaf springs are just bouncy. I had a Mitsubishi.
It depends what you're doing with it as well, right?
Yeah, true. The utility, but I had a Mitsubishi Colt. It was my first ever double cab and only ever double cab. I had a Mitsubishi Colt many years ago. And it was one of my biggest gripes. I used to love going off-road and 4x4 with that car.
Yeah.
But the bouncy ride because of those leaf springs. I mean, they made them a lot better. And we're going to hear from Chad Lückhoff later on. But we can ask him whether leaf springs have changed. It's, it's ride. But for me, the popularity of the SUV, besides the ride height, is the comfort. And the comfort comes from having independent suspension. And not those leaf springs. What else are they?
Honestly, before I did research on this, my number one thing was the practicality that comes with an SUV. I think for a lot of South Africans, money is not just something that we can get a sedan, get a hatchback, get what you know.
Very few people, the 1%, are in that category, right?
Exactly. So I think a lot of South Africans and a lot of people in the world want something that can do everything. We have access to more. So
why wouldn't that be a double cab Bucky though? Besides the leaf spring issue,
I don't have like a direct answer. I just think in terms of an all-round package, an SUV does what ultimately what double cab can do, but then some as well.
Well, I think it's more space for me. You know, the family nature of the SUV. I mean, if I think about my current SUV, I wouldn't want it to be a Bucky because you've got no space behind those back seats.
Exactly. And I think
no boot space. You've got an open cab in the back.
Open
buck in the back.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, that's not as appealing as just having a full-on, I guess, complete vehicle, if you want to put it. Whereas with the Bucky, I think people who get Buckies are going to be using that buck for,
You know what a buck cruisie is?
Well, I've not really know. You can tell me?
Probably born in Pretoria too.
Durban, actually, yeah.
A Buckies.
That would be.
So when you put some plastic in the back of a double cab, you can do it in a single cab, I suppose, as well, and you fill it with water.
Oh, okay.
It's a jacuzzi in a Bucky.
Oh, I should have made that connection. Yeah, I've actually seen people do that, but with sedans, not even just. Crazy videos out there. But yeah, so lastly, another reason why I think the SUVs are so popular is the safety aspects. Especially in South Africa, I think that's a huge selling point.
Well, I mean, when I pull up to a traffic light, I mean, my car, I can raise it. So I've got three settings. I've got entry setting, I've got ride setting, and then I've got raised setting. And sometimes when I pull up to a traffic light, I push the raise so that if somebody comes to my window, because you get these window washers which are annoying. He actually has to put on his tiptoes to look into the car.
Exactly,
which is for me safety.
Yeah, it's privacy, safety, as well as even if you're in a collision or an accident, just because of that raised sort of platform, it gives you a little bit more safety than if you had to collide with a hatchback or a sedan. So
in terms of a getaway car, my SRT was still the best. The current car, you got to wait for this turbo to spin up. If I try and pull away in that SUV from a traffic light really quickly, I'll probably like a Yaris. For the first few seconds.
I want to know, do you think that SUVs are going to continue this upward trend to overtake Buckies in South Africa, for instance? Or do you think this is just a fad that's happening right now?
Putting me in the spot now. What are the top search for vehicles at the moment, and how are those growing? That's what I would look at. It's
kind of hard with lockdown, right? Because single cabs and Buckies are still just flying. But SUVs are there. They're there. I'd be interested to see what happens in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, we are a sport utility vehicle nation now. Not really a sedan nation anymore. Too much, and SUVs are growing in popularity. Going to electric vehicles, to try and answer your question, I don't like predicting the future because 50% of the time you're right. You just don't know which 50%. Going into the future with electric cars, there are no electric Buckies in production yet, but there are SUVs.
Yeah, and that's going to be...
So chances are those manufacturers have seen the trend of SUVs. So I would imagine, given everything that we're seeing, the popularity, the growth in search for SUVs, SUVs might just overtake Buckies. Buckies will probably always be there, the double cab. I loved my double cab for its versatility. I used to be a scuba diver. I've done a few been very immersed in a few sports in my life, and scuba diving was one of them. And the reason I had the double cab was to put all the gear in the back.
You could do that in SUV though.
It's full of sand.
Okay.
You know, so when you go beach dive, like a beach entry, salt water.
Yeah, it's just not a fun experience.
Well, do you want to put that inside the car?
Yeah.
Like
no, you wouldn't want
wet
to, right?
stuff. Whereas I could just rinse the gear, chuck it in the back of the Bucky, and go.
Good to go.
Yeah, and then you could drive back from Mozambique to Johannesburg, you know, with water dripping out the back of the Bucky, and it's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of reasons for both.
We shall see, right? So I think we'll see how people change. I can't wait to see it. I don't even think I'm right. So I think we're definitely going to see some changes. Yeah. And that's the fun part about, doing this.
Well, we are going to invite Chad into the studio today to talk about Toyota's release of the new 2021 Fortuner. So before, we make Chad appear, I owned a Fortuner, loved the Fortuner, mainly because of the 7 seats. But the problem is it had leaf springs. I'm very curious to find out from Chad whether this thing has leaf springs or not. So should we try and make Chad appear?
Let's do it again. I think we can do it.
1, 2, 3. Whoa.
Where'd you come from, Chad?
It worked.
I don't know.
Where did I go?
That's the big question. Welcome, Chad.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Our very own Chad Lückhoff. I would still say, said this last time, one of the best video journalists South Africa has today.
Thank you. I'd bow if I wasn't sitting in a chair.
Exactly. And if you're a video journalist listening to this, sorry for you.
Oh man, so I'm really excited about the car that we're gonna talk about today. I've seen photos of it. So yeah, please, what's your initial sort of when you saw it?
Yeah, it's not leaps and bounds over the old one. I mean, it's a life cycle impulse. It's an update. It's not a full new model. It's not a new chassis or anything of the sorts. Yeah. But the areas that they've touched on, the areas that they've changed, are actually the areas that the consumers have been sort of flagging, which is great, which means that Toyota's, is paying attention. They're listening, and they're really making vehicles for the consumer out there. They're hoping to have a great conversion rate in terms of people upgrading that are current Fortuner owners into this new Fortuner, the 2021 Fortuner. And the updates bring it in line, sort of update it a little bit. The mechanical side of things is lovely because, there's mechanical updates, there's cosmetic updates. I don't know if you want to dive into those.
Yeah, so we had my version of the Fortuner, which was 20. I think it was a 2013 model, which is that old kind of like big bulky shape.
One,
but fortunately, not the really early ones that like to go and lie on their backs and have their bellies rubbed.
Yes, I remember those problems.
Because you were talking about SUV and the perceived safety of SUVs. Yeah. SUVs are very prone to rollover.
That's very true. You can't corner.
I've never actually seen one rollover.
Fortuners were very, very prone to this.
Not just summer. A vehicle won't just roll over for the sake. There needs to be a change of surface or something.
It's not a dung beetle that plays dead.
But one SUV T-boning another SUV, chances are ends in a rollover.
Ends on its roof. Wow.
Hectic.
So I had that SUV in 2013. It didn't roll over, fortunately, but I could feel it very top heavy.
Yeah.
And then they had a couple of facelifts in that particular variant.
But they all had a brown interior.
That's very true. Mine had a beige interior.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new one does not
have a beige interior.
It doesn't have a brown interior. They went to a chocolate brown interior.
Yeah.
Is it still an option though?
No, who wants a chocolate brown interior?
It's like having a brown car.
I think I'm doing it, so I thought maybe people wanted it.
Not in an SUV.
It's like poop color.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's so impractical. I'm trying to find a PG friendly something that I can compare
You don't need to. You don't need to. So then they had this major upgrade in its styling, which is the one that we've seen up to 2020.
And this is now the one that is. Has been facelifted,
So it's a facelift of the current version.
It's a facelift and an update. It's not a full blown ground up new model.
I felt like that full blown ground up new model was made the car feel or look a lot softer.
Yeah, it didn't have the same sort of rough and tumble and
but it looked
cruiser
nice.
Prado sort of feel to it that you were expecting, because the first generation Fortuner was always, this is a bit of a, it's a baby Prado, aspirational value in that.
Yes.
But that was also when the thing cost 400,000 rand.
True.
And that's long gone.
It's long gone.
Yeah,
long gone. So, so in the facelift, what aesthetics have been upgraded here? What has changed?
Let's do a little imaginary walk around. So up front, they've gone from the halogen beams, they've gone to bi-LED headlamps. There is a new model that has been introduced, and I need to speak about this first, actually, just to set up the rest of the changes. So the range topping model is the VX model, the GD6 2.8. It's now in line. You've seen the Prados and that type of thing, Land Cruisers with the VX nomenclature, and now the Fortuner gets that VX grade, which is now top of the range. So that is the one we tested. So we're fortunate enough we don't do the poverty spec entry level one. So this is the one that has the also has the most changes to it. So bi-LED headlamps, new striped daytime running lights. They've changed the bumper. It's a little more aggressive. Actually looks a little bit VW in the way that they've done the fog lamp arrangements. Has it lost its kind of softness a little bit? A little bit, yeah. They've given it a slightly more chiseled jaw, which is really nice. And it sort of drops a little further down. So if you think along the lines of the Hilux Dakar upgrade, remember when that Dakar front bumper that dropped just a little lower came in? Yeah, it's got a slightly more...
Why when it has to ramp over sand dunes, I don't know. But
well, yeah, I mean, approach and departure angles and all that sort of stuff. It's just inherent with the design and the functionality of the vehicle. They've changed up the grille a little bit. It gets a new sort of wavy grille. The chrome spars dive a little deeper, not just into the grille, they're diving deeper into the bumper. VX model grade gets a lovely chrome strip that runs along the side underneath the windows on the waistline and just sort of ties everything in.
Waistline. I've never heard anybody refer to a car having a waistline.
Oh, it's got a waistline.
That's why he's so good at what he does.
It's got a waistline, swage lines, hips.
So the Fortuner is the fifth most sold new car and seventh most sold used car. Do we think that this is going to carry on? Seems like it's more expensive now. So is this going to carry on that trend of being...
Still a lot of aspirational value there.
Yeah.
The clientele for this one, which is something that needs to be considered, who is their market in that?
Yeah.
And it is style-conscious people.
Yeah.
It's gone from being utilitarian that the first generation was, it's for the family guy that likes the idea of a Hilux, can't quite afford a Prado, but still needs something that can be jack of all trades and master at some.
Okay.
And this one is as capable, but it's a lot more stylish. It's a lot more elegant. It's definitely bumping it a little closer to sort of like the Lexus look and feel. Because, I mean, the perceived quality and the initial...
it doesn't have brown interior, right?
No, it doesn't. It actually got beautiful black leather interior with sort of satin silver trimming pieces and that sort of stuff. It's got new switch gear in that as well, so it just feels really good in the hand. The quality is really, really good.
Sounds expensive.
It is expensive.
What is it going
for? No,
to
wait. Cars as a whole are expensive. Yeah. Anybody that has been in this game for longer than 5 years has just seen the prices skyrocket.
That's why used is doing so well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It is.
So what is this going for?
It is. So it starts at 566.
This is not the VX. This is like basic.
No. It's going to be a 2.4s.
This is the one without the waistline.
Yeah. The VX, they've all got the waistline, just some more accentuated. The VX model is 790.
Wow.
I'm sorry?
790.
500.
Wow.
I'll give you a moment with that one.
Yeah.
So are there any like fancy new gadgets, electronics, driver aids inside?
So they've got lane keep assist. They also have adaptive cruise control, which is really lovely.
Love that feature. My current car doesn't have it. The Jeep had it.
So I mean, we sit on. I believe it's coil springs at the rear there, and they've reworked on the damper rates and the.
There goes the leaf springs.
Yeah, damper rates and the spring rates on that. Really, really smooth ride, and I can attest that the new updated Hilux as well does away with a lot of that jarriness that you were speaking about earlier.
Will it stop before you hit something? Because just speaking from a little bit of experience, it's a feature I'd like in the future.
What, the adaptive cruise control?
No, just if you're going to hit something whilst reversing specifically.
Oh.
I don't know that it has a city brake function.
Yeah.
So a city brake function. I haven't seen any literature on that, so I would be guessing if I had to say on that one. Rather nice. It can be handy. but then you haven't used it enough as well. So Mazda's known for it. CX-5, CX-5s have it. Some of the larger CX-3s and that have it. Now imagine trying to back out when there's a car guard.
Yeah, it's just going to keep stopping you all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
it's
out
a
of
pain
the
in the
way.
butt. It ruins your
You know what?
day.
You know what? Like, I mean, car guards, love them to bits. Sometimes some people love to hate them, but I've got, most people got a rear-versing camera, right?
Or rear PDC, which goes absolutely nutty.
And so the PDC goes nuts. But I'm watching the guy in my rear camera going like this, and I'm like, I can see where I'm going.
Yeah.
You the
My license wasn't one of the bought ones.
Oh, yeah, exactly. All right. So Chad, very finally, what is your overall rank of this car out of 10?
All right. So just going to touch on just quickly before I get to that one. They have done a couple of engine mods, so the power is up as well. It's up 50 Newton meters and 20 kilowatts. Okay, so it's now sitting at 150 kilowatts, 500 Newton meters, and it
turbocharged.
It is turbocharged. Yes, it goes like an absolute dream. It really is nice and pokey, nice and powerful, and the fuel consumption is pretty close to that 7.9 that they claim.
Oh.
Okay,
for an SUV, that's good.
It's really, really good.
That's good.
You hit the open road, you could probably even dip into the 6s if you wanted to. So it's really nice. They've given a new turbocharger, new injection system, and that type of thing that helps the power, but also helps the efficiency. New balance shaft makes the engine super smooth as well. So gone is that sort of canal boat clatter from the diesel engine. And
it sounds perfect. It sounds like a really all-round kind of winner.
I just want to take it back to what I was saying earlier, is that they're paying attention to what the customer's concerns are. So they're smoothing it out. They're giving it, a couple of the creature comforts, 8-inch touchscreen with physical buttons now. Instead of just full touchscreen, which was a little worrisome because you always have to divert your eyes.
Yes.
Aside from the steering wheel controls, there's now physical volume knob and all that type of thing. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, also all controllable from the steering wheel as well. The interior upgrades, NVH levels are much lower, so I'm going to have to say that I'm going to go 7.5, 8-ish on this. I can see why it's so popular.
7.5,
I really
8.
can.
Okay.
I sat there and I said, I could do this.
Yeah.
I'd probably do something else.
Favorite color in that car?
So they've got a new color. They've got a new color called Oxide Bronze, which is a bit of a olive drab.
You've taken the brown from inside to out.
Took it outside.
No, it's not quite as brown. It's a little more on a green. So you get this army camo George. The color does exist on your pants today.
Well, yeah, I don't often wear these pants, but thanks for pointing that out.
But it's in there, and it's a beautiful metallic. It really does. It just presents well. The little chrome garnishings and that sort of stuff. It's tastefully done. It's not over the top. New 18-inch wheels on the VX model as well.
Nice.
It's pretty nice.
Sounds like it definitely deserves 7 or 7.5 or 8.
7.5, 8.
7.5, 8. Well, thanks, Chad. That's all we have time for in this segment, as usual.
Thanks for having me.
Chad Lückhoff, ladies and gentlemen, our top video journalist in South Africa. He's got his own benchmark to beat. Let's see if we can teleport Chad back to where he came from.
Goodbye, Chad. It's nice having you.
Cheers, guys.
As
it was a pleasure.
Star Trek would say, energize.
Always hurts.
All right, so that was our very own Chad Lückhoff reviewing the 2021 Toyota Fortuner. Still one of my favorite cars.
And still a fan favorite in South Africa. I think a lot of people's favorite cars. So.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite cars. The fact that it's a little bit more aggressive and chiseled now.
Yeah. The waistline.
With the waistline, exactly. Maybe I like it a bit more. I didn't quite like the model that was.
I've seen photos of this one. I think a lot of people are gonna fall in love with it.
Yeah, I like the previous one, but maybe that's just because I'm older. Wandile Sishi, we at this time of the show, we take everyday people that send Auto Trader motoring related questions about all things car buying. What is our first question?
So there's been an increase in questions. I think people are really appreciating what we're doing here. And since this is the SUV episode,
you've dug up some SUV questions,
right? I have, yes.
Okay.
So the first one comes from Namib Travel. And essentially, they want to know if they're going to get an SUV, petrol or diesel. And what kind of options do we recommend for them?
Well, I mean, just in your handle's name, Namib Travel tells me, something to do with Namibia, maybe.
Maybe.
So Namib Travel. I mean, I suppose diesel or petrol, I would tend to go for, diesel.
Yeah,
if
I
it's,
think a lot of people would say that.
Yeah, I'd say, and the reasons for that is diesel's probably more readily available if you're going to be kind of going and doing trips across the countryside up into Africa, Namibia.
Definitely.
You're going to be you're going to find diesel a lot easier than what you're going to find petrol in some places. In some places you'll find petrol more than you will diesel, but I would go for diesel. It's more fuel efficient. It's probably a little bit hardier.
It's about the same.
But Namib travel, you seem to kind of contradict that when you say mostly town, but on holiday lots of gravel.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful with diesel engines. If they don't get hot enough, and you don't give them a good drive, they can get a little bit clogged up.
I've never ever heard somebody say that, but I think it's definitely something that people should consider.
Yeah.
But on efficiency, definitely I'd also say go for the diesel. This is purely based on my perception that diesel goes a bit further.
So you mentioned kind of like the X-Trail 1.6, the Kadjar 4x4, the Qashqai, and the new Duster. We'd probably advise against the diesel Duster, Qashqai or X-Trail, unless it's a daily commute with at least 15 kilometers either way. And that's the kind of like, you got to get the car kind of used. So the Duster isn't so light on fuel, so you might be kind of, looking at maybe the Kadjar 4x4. I mean, all of them, there's no such thing as a bad car.
I think it just depends on your
depends on your preferences. You've just got to watch out for the diesel if you're not using it properly. Well, that's question number one. Question number two.
So that's question number one. The second question is from Siebes, and they're asking, what will a reliable second-hand SUV they're looking for a reliable SUV that's under the price range of between 300,000 and 350,000. So they're just asking, what can they get that's going to be reliable as well?
Well, I mean, looking very quickly on AutoTrader, and there's not many options in that price range for an SUV unless you start to go a little bit older.
Or crossover.
Yeah, crossover. I mean, you mentioned the crossover earlier, Wandile. That's a very good option before you get to an SUV, and you'll definitely get into your price range there, even under 300,000 Rand for a really, really good car.
But then it depends also what you're going to be doing with the SUV, right?
Exactly.
Because I don't think crossover will let you do everything.
True.
Yeah.
There's no, very little 4x4 optionality and capabilities.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but if you want premium SUV, you go for the Audi Q5, BMW X3, or the Mercedes-Benz GLC. If you choose your year model right, you can get into your price range. And then consider the Chev Trailblazer. I mean, Chev has left the country, so or should I say General Motors. So you just got to be careful there when it comes to repair, although the dealerships are supporting it.
Yeah.
So just do your homework. Can't go wrong with a Fortuner. We spoke about it just now. Go for an older model Fortuner. You won't go wrong. There's plenty of those around. That's question number 2 from Sibs. Thank you for your question, Sibs.
And last but not least, questions from Mokhomotsi. And they're asking, hey, I wanted to ask if all dealerships on the site are trustworthy. This is a very interesting question. I think we get it quite often. It's a very valid one. It's fair.
Very fair question. So I actually addressed some of this on national TV last night on Newsroom Africa. If you want to go and have a look at that interview, you can go to my YouTube channel, George Mienie, and go and have a look at that interview. But to say that every single dealership is trustworthy, it would be difficult to hang our hat on. And the reason I say that is, we've got over 1,800 dealers advertising with AutoTrader, and we're not inside those businesses.
Yeah, every
single day, and we don't know what the operations look like. While we do our best to vet those customers before they come onto our platform, you're not going to get a situation where we're able to kind of manage 1,800 dealerships in terms of what they do, and it's their businesses. We've got no jurisdiction over it. So a very difficult question to answer. But you can mitigate your risk, Mokhomotsi. Unlike the recent article that was kind of published, you can mitigate those kinds of risks. Take somebody with you.
More times than not, usually those situations happen when the basic things aren't kind of followed.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of things that a consumer can do to kind of avoid being in a weird situation.
Don't go in blind. I mean, would you go and buy a second-hand iPhone blind?
Yeah, no, you would never.
Even if it's from the Apple store, would you? You know, it's difficult to make an assessment of a second-hand item unless you do your research.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the biggest things people could do is really research the brand.
Definitely.
If you bought a second-hand iPhone from the Apple store, we all know what Apple stands for and its quality. So chances are, you're going to be buying a quality iPhone, even if it's second-hand. Similarly with a dealership. Auto Trader doesn't sell cars. We're a marketplace. So research the dealership involved. Go onto Facebook, go onto social media, go onto Hello Peter, and go and have a look at what other people are saying about the dealership. Check whether the dealership has built a brand, because it's important. If the dealership is hiding, it's a red flag for me. It's a big red flag for me. Take somebody knowledgeable with you to go and view the car. Have a look at the joins. Has the car been in an accident? Is there overspray? Have a look underneath the car. Even ask the dealership to put the car on a lift if they have one.
Yeah,
go and have a look underneath. Is there anything bent? Is there anything out of place? Are there cable ties? You see a cable tie. Manufacturers don't make cars with cable ties underneath.
Yeah. I think for the consumer though, knowing that Auto Trader has the reputation of being SA's most trusted motor marketplace. So from that standpoint, I think that's a reputation that's been grown over time, and we certainly do whatever we can to assist the consumer. So
we do whatever we can. So so just buyer beware, protect yourself, and the instances of dealerships actually being criminal, unscrupulous, unethical is the vast minority. The used car dealerships have got a bad rap for the very, very small minority. I'm in and amongst dealerships all the time, and the vast majority of them are really good guys.
Yeah, I mean, you want your business to survive, right? So you're going to do everything you can to ensure that they come back.
Exactly. Well, that's all we have time for, Wandile Sishi. And my name is George Mienie, and this has been the Auto Central Show, powered by Auto Trader.
Thank you.